is the Awakened Heart Show with Susan MacQuarrie. And Susan has just returned from the Oneness University in Chennai, India. And so today she's going to share with us her journey and her experience there. So welcome back, Susan.
Thank you. Namaste, Michelle. And namaste to all of you. I'm so excited to be back and to be able to share, a little bit of my story.
So tell us a little bit about what it was like getting ready to go on this journey. What was your expectations? What were your thoughts and feelings in preparing for this incredible journey?
It was nerve-wracking, really, because the mind wants to create all these expectations, about what will happen. I have this opportunity to go to this sacred, blessed place, and I really felt like I needed to be ready, for it. So I focused on getting myself ready in the way that intuitively felt right, emotionally ready. And I tried as much as I could not to create too much expectation. Because, when we do that, we're generally disappointed. So I tried to keep that to a minimum. And I focused a lot on, oh my goodness, what do you bring to India for a month? It's a long trip. And, there was a lot of, I think, amongst us scurrying, trying to get ready to have everything with us that we needed.
Right.
So, it was being a lot in the mind, I think, and trying not to be.
So did you find that when you got there you were missing anything?
Yes, unfortunately. I was. Unfortunately, of course it always seems to work that way. Most things I had, but, I'm one of those people that takes magnesium every night, the Calm product, and it keeps me nice and calm and helps me to sleep.
Okay.
And I forgot that. So I thought that was kind of funny, because of course it had an impact on my sleep while I was in India. And as a nurse, I would say I could have brought along a few more pharmacy type items to perhaps make my stay a little more comfortable.
Okay.
Because I tend to physicalize everything. So I had a lot of physical stuff going on.
Right.
And, of course the nursing mind says, oh, I could take this or that, but, I didn't have it, so.
Let's backtrack just a little bit
Sure.
to the decision to even go to India. I know people who have watched your show before should know this already, but just a little recap of this all happened very quickly for you.
It did.
Those of us who know you know
Yes.
that this was not something you've been doing for years or thinking about going. This happened literally within a 60 to 90 day period of time that you had registered and paid for and were committed to going to India.
Yes. Well, it wasn't a 60 to 90 day path in the sense that, like many of us, I'm sure
Right.
many of you, I've been on some kind of seeking path for probably 20 years.
Correct.
But yes, when I met my Oneness family, it was like being reunited. Everything about it felt right. And one of them said to me, oh, I see you going to India in December. And I'm like, don't put that out there. Don't say that. Like, I didn't feel like I was ready yet. But it stuck, and it stuck. And I just kept thinking, I'm supposed to go in December. I really am supposed to go. And that's the funny thing about India, and they talk to you a lot about that, is that we prepare for lifetimes for decisions like that. So for me to go and have the privilege of sitting in darshan with an avatar who is God, is so huge, so huge. So really, when you get the calling, it will unfold naturally. If you're supposed to go, it may happen very quickly. I believe for all of us, it's actually, there's kind of almost a date that we've picked for our awakening and for different things in our spiritual journey. And mine just, I'm not sure why it came together the way it did, but as it unfolded, it felt perfect. Like it was designed exactly for Susan.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about your expectations getting there. What was it like when you actually arrived at the university? Can you explain your sensation of arrival?
This may disappoint a few of you because there was nothing spiritual about it. It was mass pandemonium. 500 people descending upon India to be awakened, and we had to go through like 5 different lines, and people are sick, they don't feel well, there's a time change, we're jet lagging, I was going through some bug or something. Well, it's a process physically, and everyone is triggering everybody else like I've never seen anything quite like it. I think India actually sets it up that way, and so now it's really funny to me. Like I look back and I could just laugh and laugh because it was like one trigger after another, and I'm like thinking, there's nothing spiritual about this place. Look at all these people. They're so rude. They're pushing. They're yelling. And it was all part of the process. So, it's funny the way our divine works. It's not always airy-fairy and beautiful. We have to go through a lot of release. And in order to do that, sometimes we experience some things that feel really not spiritual, at least in the sense that we think of it. So it was crazy. The first couple of days were just absolutely crazy.
Well, I know you had done some traveling to other countries before, so did that help in preparing you for any of that, or it was just completely different?
No,
okay.
It really didn't. I mean, I was comparing it a little bit in my mind to Brazil, where I went to see John of God. And that was such a different experience. When you get there, they just embrace you with this beautiful spiritual energy. India, it's different. They're like, okay, you're here, we're going to pound it out of you. And it's like, they create these situations for you where you start to just have to let go. You have to start surrendering, because otherwise you're just walking around pissed all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe they're called kriyas.
Yes, I've heard that, and I could think of a few other words for it as well.
Spiritual processing that comes up to make us, for our stuff, so to
look
speak,
in the mirror.
to come right up in front of us, and we can't run from it.
Absolutely.
So it's, I've been in that experience myself. So, not been in India, but in an ashram.
Well, they make it quite an experience, I'll say that.
Right.
Yeah, which is perfect.
So, what was it like, just the country itself, arriving there, and the people, and the environment, besides the university itself?
Yeah. Chennai is, it's just this amazing city. The hustle and bustle, the amount of people running here and there and to and fro. I mean, it's like nothing I've ever experienced. We felt like we were taking our lives in our hands when we went shopping, because there's just cars everywhere on the streets, and most of them are one-way streets, but there's no lanes. And they're in those teeny little cars that are kind of like golf carts, but they go really fast. Right,
yes.
And everyone honks the whole time they drive. The whole time. But it's not like American honking. To me, American honking is like, get out of my way.
Right.
In India, it's like, toot toot, hello, I'm on your right side.
Right.
And they literally honk the whole time they're driving, so everyone knows where they are on the road.
Wow.
So it's adorable. It's so fun to watch, but when you step into the street, I mean, you have to say a prayer, because it's like, how am I going to get across what looks like, it's like an 8-lane highway, even though it's just a little road, because there are these teeny little cars and there's no lanes. So it was quite an experience, just to walk to the shopping center. Yeah.
Wow. So you got there, you're going through all these things, you're getting acclimated. So when did you feel like you were really starting to get settled and into the experience and
Pretty quickly.
Okay.
They don't mess around. In America, we go to, a class or, a retreat or something, and we get these long breaks, and, maybe we go for 4 days, and then we have the weekend off. And, I mean, in India, you go from, the first day you get there, you start class at the crack of dawn, and you go all day long into the late evening sometimes. So, there wasn't a lot of, oh, let's get adjusted. There was a lot to do in 28 days. And I see it now. Why? I mean, we just jumped off, started running because there's a lot to accomplish in that period of time. For people to walk away awakened,
Right.
in a 28-day period.
So tell us a little bit about the structure. Like, what time did you have to wake up? What was your daily schedule like?
Well, generally we would start class anywhere between 6 and 7:30, and have a few hours class, then have breakfast, then go back to class, and then we would have our temple in the afternoon. Not every day, at least not in the beginning. Towards the end we'd go every day, and temple was this mad dash of people to get on the bus, to get to temple, to get a good seat.
Right.
And so that was a whole nother trigger process where everyone was mad at everybody else and pushing and
Been there,
shoving.
done that, yes.
Yeah, craziness. And then, we'd stay at temple into the evening. I mean, sometimes 8, 9, a couple times even later. And then we come back and have dinner, and you go straight to bed because you had to get up the next morning and do it all over.
Did you chant in temple or meditate or both?
We
or?
did sadhanas. We did do some chanting. Sadhana is like an offering to your divine where you do a practice, something like twirling, for an extended period of time.
Okay.
Or walking around with your eyes closed. We'd walk around the perimeter of the temple with our hands above our heads and our eyes closed. The design of a sadhana, at least how I experienced it, is to really make you start realizing how helpless you are.
Right.
And when you become helpless, you surrender, and when you surrender, you get closer to your divine.
Right.
So you go about 10 steps on a 3rd floor balcony with your eyes closed and your hands above your head, and your divine's name just starts coming out of your mouth naturally because you're afraid. You're afraid.
Wow.
And yeah, so we did a lot of sadhana.
That's great. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was. Sadhana was a beautiful part of the process. And, we also got Diksha, obviously, in many different ways. And teachings and sharings and dancing. We danced a lot, to celebrate the divine and to celebrate our experience there. So, they just have a beautiful design to the whole thing, where you really feel like they've got you. You don't say, like, what are they doing to me? This is crazy. I mean, you're like, wow, they got me. And then pretty soon you know that your divine has you, and it's so sacred, so beautiful, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long has the university been in existence there?
I'm not totally sure because
Okay.
it's gone through different growths. I believe that the temple just went up in like 2006 or 7, but I can't be sure. People can find that out online.
Yes,
Yeah.
most definitely, yes. ONenessUniversity.org.
There you go.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So, did you have any free time once the
Yeah, we had a little bit where
Okay.
we could spend it doing our laundry by hand and hanging it on the line.
right?
Or we could do some sadhanas if we were so inclined. Or just, people would do yoga or just lay in the grass and meditate. It was a beautiful campus. I posted a lot of pictures on my Facebook page. So, you can go on there and see what a beautiful place it is. I was obsessed with the monkeys, so I have many monkey pictures, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's just a
Right.
beautiful place. You know, very obviously natural with monkeys running around and
I love that. I didn't know the
yeah.
monkeys are running around, but I should have guessed that.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're everywhere. They're at the temple.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's an example of the monkey mind, right?
There you go. Exactly. If you're
Reminder.
not sure what it is, just look out there and there's one having monkey mind right in front of you.
Yes, in the scriptures, the mind is often referred to as the monkey.
Yes.
So
Yes,
it's interesting.
that is.
Were you tending to be with the same group of people in each of your classes, or was it a flow of different people coming in and out?
I think, we naturally would hang out with a certain group for a few days and then just kind of disperse and naturally end up with some different people. Which in looking back is, part of the process. If you're with different personalities, different aspects of you come out, and it makes your experience a fuller one. At the temple, we did have a mandala that we sat around, so we did have that group of people that was constant
Okay.
for the whole time.
Uh-huh.
But other than that, most of us made a conscious effort to, move around and be with different people.
Right. Now, obviously, your major reasoning for going here was for awakening. This was an awakening
Right.
process, and everybody awakens at a different time when they're there. And for you, it was
It's about 2 weeks in.
2 weeks in. Now, you and I were talking a little bit earlier about there's a difference between an awakened state and awakening.
Yes.
So could you share that with us?
Yes, I can share my experience with it. And it's very fascinating, because I'd had some beautiful states here. After like a Diksha circle, I would, feel very, very connected with people and a lot of love. And, so I'd had some awakened states here. But in India, my first one, I thought like, oh my God, what has happened to me? Like, I'm about to transcend into heaven or something. I'm being silly, but it was so intense. Like everything, like I'd look at a tree and I'm like, I'm becoming one with the tree. It was like I could have sat and looked at the tree for a day. And, clearly looking back, as much as I liked that state, because it was like blissful, it wasn't operational. I you can't function when you're walking around in that kind of bliss, because your eye catches something and then you just, oh, look at that, and you're in the middle of traffic or something.
Right.
Again, I'm exaggerating, being kind of silly, but my first awakened state was kind of like that. And yet, one of the things that I noticed at the same time, which was so strange to me, is I had some people that really served as like my measuring stick. Like if they were pissing me off, I knew I was still, really getting triggered.
Right.
And I was still getting like triggered in this huge way. So here I was in bliss, and yet it felt like I'd made no movement. But, that even happens to some awakened people. So I was so confused. Am I awakened? What's going on? I had no clue. Until it faded away. And then I'm like, okay, I have a clue. That definitely wasn't awakening because it's gone. And I had 2 of those that lasted several days.
Okay.
Where I was just blissed out and yet still at the same time still suffering, like in a pretty big way.
Right.
And it was interesting. It was lovely. I certainly wouldn't turn down an awakened state, when it comes upon me, because it's quite beautiful. But awakening was very different. I can't say is, because I can't speak for anyone but me, but it's much more practical. You aren't walking around high on life. Well, maybe a little, but you're operational, you're functional. And for me, again, my awakening, our awakenings are designed just for us. Our divine designs them just for us. So of course I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having the best awakening there ever was, because it was for me.
Right.
And it really feels like that. Like it has been custom designed for you. And I'm very blessed because I don't experience a lot of triggers anymore, at least not yet. And that's not necessarily true of awakening. Awakening, to be very clear, it is a neurobiological shift in the brain. That's it. My daughter asked me, well, like if I awaken, will that make me a really spiritual person? No, it will not. For me, my experience, I fell in love with God while I was in India. So it was hugely spiritual for me.
Right.
But awakening is a shift in the brain such that you get declutched, which is like enough space or separation from your mind that you can witness it, and the psychological suffering that we have, about everything, right? Why did she say that to me? What did she mean? Will she show up? Will he call me? All that stuff our brain does all day long. Either we get relief from that, or we get perspective and we get a witness relationship with that stuff going on.
Right.
Hopefully that made sense.
Yes.
Because it just kind of babbled out of
No,
me.
that made sense.
Oh, good. Okay.
But that's another, that sort of a nice in on what you were also talking to me about what is a relationship to the divine. I mean, we're talking about that. Maybe we can explain to those that are listening and watching. What do you mean? How does one establish a relationship with the divine?
Yeah, that's a good question. We learned so much in India, and I don't want to reiterate a lot of that except to share with you more, maybe experientially, and that will help. They talk a lot about how essential, as we move into the golden age, which is when God and man become one, literally.
Right.
And it's the most exciting, we are about to enter the most exciting times you can possibly imagine. But in order to prepare for that, we really need to establish a bond with our personal divine. And that can be anybody, anything. It can be a tree, it can be light, it can be Buddha, Christ, Sri Rama Bhagwan, you name it, Kuan Yin, Mother Earth, whatever that bond, whoever that it is that it feels to you is like your personal divine, because we all have one. We need to establish that bond with them. And the bond is about complete authenticity. Because they already know. So you can't pretend. And if you do, your bond is it's just not gonna be good. Because they know this is God, right? So if you're like, oh, I'm so spiritual, I love everybody, no one bothers me, I'm amazing, all I do is give, your divine is going to be like, excuse me, I saw what you did yesterday. Like, you can't fool them. So this is the one relationship in our life, really the one, that we are completely authentic, because we build our personal divine. And really, you want to make your personal divine one that is all loving, no judgment, right? They just love you completely for exactly who you are. And then, you're just yourself with them. And it becomes somebody that you can talk to all the time. As you're walking along, as you're waiting to go to sleep, this is someone you can be conversing with and establishing a bond with. And that will change your experience of the golden age and everything that's coming so much. It'll be so much richer, so much more beautiful.
So do you feel, since you're awakening in India, that divine, that voice of the divine is much stronger now?
Yes, no question. That's the beauty of getting to dedicate 28 days, right?
Right.
Because, we don't have that so much here. So I was blessed with, okay, you've got a month to hang out with your divine all the time. So yes, my bond got so much stronger, so much clearer. The communication's clear, everything's clearer, better, sweeter, more wonderful. But, that was my path. And not everyone goes to India. Not everyone gets 28 days. So, the best advice I can give is to really be authentic and start establishing that bond as closely, as you can.
Now, talking about the Golden Age and about some of the upcoming people that you're going to have here on your show, The Awakened Heart, and explaining more about the upcoming Golden Age and helping us embrace that Golden Age. Some people call it, the rapture, the enlightenment, the Golden Age, the heaven on earth. There's all these different descriptions for whatever resonates for you. But tell us about some of the upcoming events that you'll be able to share with us on this show here.
Absolutely. As I said briefly, the Golden Age is when God and man become one. And in India, people are experiencing every single day, and I mean thousands of people, their God is literally becoming physical for them. And I mean physical, like you're physical, right?
Yes.
Their God is becoming physical for them. And once your God becomes physical for you, as Sri Amma Bhagwan says, it's all over. It's all over. Because what more is there? You can ask, there they are for you. You can say, you know what, I want to be God realized. I want to be transformed. I want this liberation. And they're able to do that for you because they become physical to you. So you have this bond that is unbreakable. So the things that are coming to Las Vegas are beyond any expectations I could have possibly had. When Deborah Apsara gets back from India, which is in the next month, I'll be interviewing her, and she'll talk with you about this Oneness Shrine that's going to be in Henderson. And this shrine is going to be a place where you can go not only to be healed physically, emotionally, spiritually, but also a place where you can go and ultimately have your divine become physical for you. So we have some of the most amazing things coming to us in this Golden Age. And as I shared with Michelle before the show, for me, because I was in India and I had the grace to sit in a darshan and hear this directly from Sri Amma Bhagwan, it's like a truth, that's in my cells, like this is really happening. And, I can hold that truth for people and share it with people, but I understand, too, that the doubt, people still have a lot of doubt because we've been waiting a long time, for something this amazing to happen.
Right. We sure have.
Yeah. And, and waiting is hard. So all I can tell you is that I will be interviewing people in the up and coming weeks and just sharing absolutely amazing things with you that I think will make you so happy and so excited and so hopeful about where we're going.
Well, let's say someone watching the show right now has, I don't want to say no spiritual background, because we're all spiritual beings, whether they realize it or not, but let's say they're not conscious of,
absolutely,
and they haven't gone in any spiritual paths, maybe their parents dragged them to church or, whatever, but they never have involved anything into their daily routine. What would you say is the best course for them to find out more about?
It's a tough question. It depends what they want. It really does. If they are comfortable where they're at, then I would say stay where you're at, because it's not time.
Right.
For them to shift. You can't force these things.
Right.
If they're not comfortable where they're at and they're feeling a desire to shift, but they're like, oh my gosh, where do I start? Right? I would say start by going to Diksha circles and getting Diksha.
Perfect.
Because that'll open it up. And, we do Diksha Maybe you can say the days and times. We should
Uh,
say that.
Okay, well, the next Diksha Circle here at Unity Center in Las Vegas will be February 6th, a Thursday.
So it's every
First and third Thursday, correct.
Yes.
And
At
every
7?
at 7, and every second and fourth Wednesday at Just Breathe Wellness Center at 7:30. And then I know there's one at the yoga studio on Saturdays, and I forget if that's the second and fourth or the first and
I'm
third.
not sure those are still happening, so we'll
Okay.
kind of hold off on that
Right.
one. But while we're talking about, unfortunately I don't have a website yet, so I do want to say to all of you, if you have questions about any of these things that I've shared, or, even want to talk, get in touch with me on Meetup, Las Vegas Oneness. Okay, because I actually administrate the page. I kind of check the page every couple days. Just write me a little note and I will be happy to talk with you or answer questions, or whatever it is I can do for you.
Wonderful. Well, speaking of Diksha,
Yes.
we're going to end the show with, why don't you explain what you're able to do now as coming back from India, the type of Oneness
Diksha.
Awakened Diksha that
Yeah.
you're able to share with us on the show here today as
Sure.
we end.
No problem. So we always like to end with Diksha, because Diksha is what really prepares us for all of these things that we've been talking about. Since I've become awakened, I've had the shift in my brain. I've had that biological shift. And so when I give Diksha now, it's called Awakened Diksha instead of just regular Diksha. What does that mean? It means because my brain's awakened, your brain will attempt to sync up with mine. It actually will attempt to do that when I'm talking to you and when I'm giving you Diksha. It's kind of the nature of the brain, and the thing that's so beautiful about that is it makes awakening contagious in a sense. It really does. So that's kind of part of my job, is to talk about this and to give Diksha, because eventually we're all going to be awakened. So we're going to give Awakened Diksha.
So I'm going to switch the music for us. We have a special prayer that we like to play during
Yeah.
the Diksha. So I'm going...
And let me just say thank you. Namaste. Blessings. Again, do not hesitate to get in touch with me. And thank you, Michelle, for all that you do with this
Thank you.
beautiful radio station
Thank you,
of
Susan.
yours. She has a raffle going on.
Yes.
Yes, speak about it.
We have a raffle to support the network as we grow, to support our broadcasters and bring you more broadcasters, more information, more interactivity. And so we're doing a raffle for $10 a ticket, and for a chance to win an iPhone 5. So if you would like to contribute, we would much appreciate it.
Please do. She's doing beautiful things here. Really, really. The messages she's bringing in are really beautiful. She needs your support.
Thank you so much. And without further ado,
All right.
let us prepare for Diksha.
So, just close your eyes as you're receiving the Diksha and relax. There's nothing else that you need to do, and the show will just end as we finish up with Diksha. And namaste to all of you. Lots and lots of love.